the PSG-1, a marksman rifle that looks oddly like the G3. So lately I've been playing quite a bit with DMRs or marksman rifles, whatever you want to call them, in Delta Force. Now that I've been through like all the assault rifles, all the SMGs, I thought I would start working on builds for marksman rifles, even though they're not my favorite class of weapons. But I think I came up with a PSG-1 build that is really decent, and I was actually having quite a bit of fun with it just because it shoots really fast, and the muzzle velocity on this thing is just absolutely insane how I have it built. So starting off with a blank slate here, we're going to start by changing the barrels. So you have a wide variety of barrels here. You have to be careful though. This one, the G3 platform marksman barrel combo, reduces the fire rate, which is not what we want to go for here. So I chose to go for the G3 enhanced long barrel combo, which gives you plus 14 meters as opposed to the plus 16 that this one gives you, but you keep that higher fire rate. So install that. For the muzzle device, I chose to go with the Whisper tactical suppressor to get even more range on that. Now you're doing max damage up to 112 meters, which is really, really good. Control, a little bit of extra control there at the cost of some handling and stability, but we'll make up for that a little bit later. For the foregrip, I chose to go for the folding foregrip, which is right down here. Now this one gives you plus 5 stability and plus 1 handling. I tried other grips on here, but I wanted to get something that boosted the stability because I didn't want to get so much aim punch if somebody was trying or hitting me at those longer ranges at which you would use the PSG-1. So install that. For the mag, you get a few options here. So you get a 30 round mag or the 20 round. I was just using the 20 round mag. It makes the reel a little bit quicker, and I felt like it was plenty to deal with many enemies, especially at the longer ranges. They're not really going to be firing back at you for the most part. So 20 rounds is fine, but you could also put the 30 round mag on here for an extra -2 penalty on the handling. So I'm just going to put the 20 rounder on here since that's what I used. Mag mount, no penalties here, just equip it. For the rear grip, now you have two options here, the G3 skeleton grip or the G3 rear grip. I chose to go with the rear grip, getting more stability, extra handling, and a little bit more control. This weapon is also particular because you can put a trigger. So the PSG-1 precision trigger gives you a higher fire rate, so increasing the fire rate by 53 RPM at the cost of some stability. So I decided to put this on here so you can fire this thing even faster. For the stock, I went with the skeleton sniper stock to get some of that stability back, some of that handling at the slight cost of control and accuracy. Overall, you're not going to be using this weapon to hipfire anyways, so the accuracy loss here isn't a big deal in my opinion. For the optic, I went with the viewpoint 3x, so I actually like the reticle on this one. If we preview it right here, I like it's very simple, just a T with a red dot in the middle, makes it very easy to see, as opposed to like the ACOG, which is like a greenish half triangle or whatever you want to call it. I really prefer this one, and it's just magnified enough in my opinion for those ranges at which I'm going to take fights. Then you have a few patch slots here. I just went ahead and put 2 DD Python handguard panels to get extra handling, so the ADS time is just a little bit quicker. For the calibration of this weapon, we're going to start off with the barrel. Simply put plus 10 millimeters to get extra muzzle velocity. For the rest, you could put plus 50 grams to get extra firing stability, or plus 4% movement speed. Overall, you're not firing this weapon in fully automatic, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference to put stability on here. So I guess you could probably put this for the rare times that you are moving while ADS'd. For the foregrip, I simply put -2 slots here to get extra ADS speed at the slight cost of control, but considering it is a semi-automatic rifle, the control is still hitting you, but even with the -4 control here, the weapon still felt very manageable, and you can still easily keep your shots on target back to back to back. For the rear grip, we're going to go with plus 20 millimeters in thickness to get a little bit extra stability when moving, and then plus 6% control just to mitigate that overall recoil a little bit. For the stock, we're going to go with -50 grams and -2 slots on here to get extra aiming stability while breathing and a little bit more ADS movement speed for the rare occasions in which you want to move around while aiming down sight. And then for the optic, -20 millimeters in eye relief, which is a recurring one on all of my builds, just to get the sight closer to my pupil. So the PSG-1 unlocks at level 9, which is quite early in your progression in Delta Force, and in order to use this build, you will need to level up the PSG-1 to level 72, which is pretty much at the end of the leveling for the PSG-1, and this gives you access to the G3 rear grip, which you could probably just use the basic one if you don't want to level it up all the way with your cards to level 72, or not, if not the G3 skeletonized grip. So the PSG-1 does pretty much the exact same damage pattern as the SR25 at a slightly lower range. So the SR25, if you deck it out properly, it's doing 35 damage up to 140 meters. The PSG-1 is going to be a little bit less than that, up to 112. But with having that precision trigger on there, your fire rate's 353 RPM, which is really, really decent. And then your muzzle velocity is 1,014. So I know a lot of people were saying, well, if you're only taking fights at 100 meters, it doesn't really matter. But in those rare occasions that you do want to take fights, I like at 150 meters, 200 meters, and people are moving, that extra muzzle velocity is going to feel really good, and you're basically not going to have to lead your shots at all to hit those moving targets. And considering how fast this weapon shoots for a semi-automatic with 35 damage per shot up to 112 meters, you know, it's taking you 3 shots to kill, 4 shots at those longer ranges. But yeah, that extra fire rate is really helpful, and it felt awesome to fire at people at those longer ranges. You're still, it's so laser accurate due to that extremely high muzzle velocity. Felt absolutely amazing to use. Now I've been slowly warming up to marksman rifles in Delta Force, albeit I don't think they're in that good of a spot. Like, a lot of the ARs can probably out damage the DMRs at the ranges at which you would want to take fights with DMRs. So like that 100-meter range, if you build your AR right, like the AUG basically has no recoil, you're probably going to be doing better with the AUG. So the DMRs are still like not in an ideal spot. I think they could do a little bit of rebalancing, but the PSG-1, how I built it with this, with the high muzzle velocity, the increased fire rate, and the arguably pretty long range at which you can do max damage, just makes it such a blast to use. I was getting some really good games with this thing using Luna. I don't really use DMRs or long range weapons with Hekla. It feels kind of like a moot point for her, considering all of her abilities are more so inclined for like aggressive playstyles. But with Luna, this thing was such a blast to play on, like Trench Lines Knights, even Cracked. I was getting some really nice kills on Cracked with that, and then obviously Trainwreck, which is a really large map. So overall, a solid time with the PSG-1 after building what I think is a really good build for this specific weapon. But that's enough rambling for today. If you have ideas for upcoming videos, leave them in the comment section down below. I'll leave you with a few highlight clips of me using the PSG-1 with this specific build. In any case, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.
Located! Found enemy AA! Let me detect first! I've got it!